Hi, I'm Dr. Toya Gordon, and I help women understand and support their health across every life stage. This is Women's Health, one question at a time. So for today's question, it is, why does a woman's body feel different at different life stages? So first, I think it's important to talk about what a life stage is or define that. I look at a life stage as an important milestone in one's life. So it's a distinct period that defines a person's development, whether it's development physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, their holistic development. When you think about life stages in women's health, typically we focus on one life stage. Like you say, or you think women's health and you think pregnancy. Like that's usually the first thought that anyone has. And I think it's because pregnancy is so important because you're not only focusing on the mother, but you're also focusing on the growing baby or fetus. However, pregnancy is not the only life stage that defines women's health, especially for women who do not desire to have any children, or they have tried to have children and they have been unable to do so. And so I can imagine for those individuals, it's so traumatic because we are fixated on something that unfortunately they can't do or cannot achieve. So from a women's health standpoint, life stages start when you're really a child. You know, you could even say from the second that you come out of the womb, but really because you're going through so much development, but really your first life stage is like puberty, adolescence, because there are so many things happening from a physiologic standpoint that result in physical changes, mental changes, emotional changes, and that's when you really start to develop into who you are going to become. So, you know, your first life stage is puberty, adolescence, then you're coming into your young adulthood, then your later adulthood into your middle years, and then your later years before you pass on to a different place or whatever you believe. And so you can imagine that as you go through those life stages, there are different things that are happening from a cellular level. So that's like physiologically within your body and how all of your organs are functioning and developing. And one of those main organs is your brain. So then from a mental standpoint, because of the experiences that you have been exposed to, the people you have met, the lessons that you have learned, that is all shaping how you move from one life stage to another. So you have the mental changes that are occurring. And I always say that your mental manifests into your physical. And so depending on how you are dealing with something or how you're dealing with something emotionally, that's going to make you not only feel something mentally or have a certain emotion, but it's also going to shape how you physically deal with it. And then how you physically deal with something, your brain learns that behavior, and then that results in a different neurologic imprint. And so you can imagine that as you move through these different life stages, again, puberty, adolescence, early adulthood, late young adulthood, the middle years, later years, there's going to be changes. There's going to be a difference. And that's why how you dealt with something when you were a child is very different than how you're going to deal with it as a young adult, than how you're going to deal with it as someone in your middle journey versus how you're going to deal with it in your later years. And so that's why there's a difference, and your body is going to feel that difference as you transition through those life stages. And you can even think about it from a cellular level with hormones. So when you are pre-puberty, your ovaries are dormant. They're just there, but they're not awake. But as you're going through, or once you go through puberty, your ovaries are like, ah, and your ovaries are talking to other organs. They're talking to your adrenal glands. They're talking to your brain and the hypothalamus. They're talking to your pituitary. And so once your ovaries wake up and you start to develop all of these hormones that your body wasn't seeing before, from a cellular level, from a metabolic level, that causes changes. And those changes, you don't just feel physically, you feel them, you're aware of them mentally, and then mentally, what you're aware of, it shapes how you deal with things, what you experience, what you do or don't do, and then that impacts you physically. So it all goes hand in hand. Food for thought. If this resonated with you, you like this conversation, then follow me, subscribe to this channel, comment. I'm also on many other social media platforms, from Instagram at JourneyWellMD, TikTok at JourneyWellMD, and YouTube now. So I am going to make a commitment to doing this every day, just answering a question a day, and let's see how this goes.